Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another weekly Clubhouse experience with Mission Matters. We are, in short, a multimedia platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, business owners, executives. What we essentially do is showcase their story, and we want to share and amplify other people's stories and help them get their voice out there to inspire and educate future generations or other entrepreneurs and executives that are in the trenches currently. And so the way that we do this is through our podcast and through our books. We've released over 3,500 podcast episodes since we launched several years ago. And we published over 150 authors now in various different types of books. And so we're constantly creating content out there, and we have amazing entrepreneurs. We have amazing lessons and stories that we've been able to share and learn from a lot of our folks. And so with that, we constantly want to inspire, and we want to keep finding more entrepreneurs and executives that we can share these stories with. And so with that, we've got a really strong slate of some business leaders here. And I think we'll just go across the screen. And so Billy, I have you listed here first. Would love to have you kind of share your story a little bit, and maybe why don't you tell everyone here, what you're currently up to right now.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be talking again. I'm Billy Frank. I did a chapter in when it was Money Matters. I started a youth sporting event that started actually in 1968, based on the 1965 riots, the Watts Summer Games. But what I started was the USA City Games in 2017. Being an Angelino, I'll get into myself for a second. Being an Angelino and coming from Wrecking Parks and coming from a broken home with a mother who raised three of us, I never had the opportunity to play sports, really, play high school sports, give it a shot. I was a really decent player as a kid, but I had to go to work at a young age, like many people. So when I saw and I heard about the Watts Summer Games, it was something that I gravitated toward and something that I wanted to make a difference in the city when the Junior Chamber of Commerce was letting them go. So in short, I now run the USA City Games. We mounted the games in 2017 for hundreds of kids at the LA Memorial Coliseum, which was a first for them and a first for me. And I'll leave it at watching them come out of the tunnel alone was just life-changing for them and for me.
Sounds good. Thank you, Billy.
Hey guys, thank you for having me in my very first Clubhouse chat. My name is Mekky, and I also did a chapter in one of the Mission Matters books. Actually, it was the one that had all women in business in it. And I was very honored to be part of that. And my story is that I'm from Chicago, born and raised my whole life, and got my start in television news. I was a journalist for over 12 years, and then decided to cross into PR. And for about a decade, was the number 2 at 3 different agencies in Chicago before finally deciding to start my own. But it was not an easy road to get there. There were a lot of challenges that I went through to become an entrepreneur. And that's really what I wrote about in the chapter, how to turn those challenges into gifts. I had cancer out of the blue when I was working 80 hours a week at one of the agencies, and luckily caught it early enough and recovered, but it did a lot to change my perspective, along with losing a job and just really learning how to look at those things as signs on the path that I should be on. And since I started my business almost 5 years ago, it's just been a humongous success. It's grown way faster than I ever imagined, and it's been quite an exciting journey to be on. So, we're a publicity company, and I media trained because I used to be a TV producer and all those things. So that's my story, and yeah, I'm excited to be on Clubhouse and meet all you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Gio, why don't you feel free just to introduce yourself?
Well, hi, my name is Giovanni. I own a few brands and different verticals, one of them being in the sports and fitness accessory line, where we make products for yoga, fitness accessories, Pilates, and also own a luxury brand of handbags for women and men, and another brand where we make high-end shoes for men and women as well, and then a couple of other brands. But yeah, I'm not sure right now for we're going to chat for about 7 years, right? I forget how long it's been a little while. But when I met Chirag, I was actually doing real estate here in the West Side and in the Westwood, Brentwood, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills area. Did pretty well in the real estate business, took the money that I made there, and that's how I launched my brands that I'm currently running. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, just looking forward to continue to work with Chirag. He's become a great friend, and I love seeing how he's always diversifying and, thinking new ideas.
Thank you. Go for it, Rita.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'm Marguerita. Ms. Rita, you can call me whatever is easier for you. I had the opportunity to work with Chirag and Adam for 2 books, the women's book and then a book on business leaders. My topic was confidence. I am a CFP Pro, Certified Financial Planner, and what I'm really doing is I am changing conversation of money and wealth in America. The client of the future looks very different from the client of today, and I am making sure that we break money silence and we help people become not just financially empowered, but financially resilient. So thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. Garrett, why don't you go for it?
Sure. Thanks, Chirag. So this is my first one of these roundtable events. I love this platform. Thanks for inviting me on it, Chirag. I was an author in the real estate version 2 book. I had a great time doing that. My name is Garrett Mott. I'm a shareholder with Hennig Law Corporation. We are a spinoff of the #1 construction practice in California at Hanson Bridget, formerly at Hanson Bridget. We started our own firm last year, which has been very successful, and we're very happy about our platform and how we've developed it into a wholly remote firm, which was very fortuitous, as you can imagine, with the whole thing that happened in March. So I'm glad to be here, Chirag. Thanks for inviting me in.
Cool. Absolutely. And a fellow Trojan as well. So fight on there. John, feel free to take the reins.
I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I own a law firm in downtown Los Angeles, and lifelong real estate investor. I was a contributor to the first Mission Matters real estate book. And I'm currently, of course, running my law firm, but also spending a lot of time in Texas, investing in real estate here in Texas, and also building some economic development projects with the city of San Antonio. Thanks.
Amazing. And then last but not least, Rani, feel free to share your story.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I logged just a little bit late here. My name is Rani Khaterpal, and I am a co-author along with Michelle and Marguerite in the Women in Business book that was just launched a few months ago. And I am in healthcare, specifically on the business side of healthcare. And I work in now being termed value-based care. You may or may not have heard that term, but it's essentially now looking at care delivery holistically and sort of bringing the person that's paying for healthcare and the person that's providing healthcare and the patient that's receiving that healthcare in one big story, if you will, for lack of a better term. So it's really changing the way care is being delivered, as well as how it's being reimbursed. So I am a founder and an entrepreneur. I currently work for a company that does specialty care management in developing these alternative care delivery models for cardiology and oncology. So very neck deep in the world of both of those areas. And it's great to be here. This is my first chat here on this platform. So it's very exciting. So thanks for having me, Chirag. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you guys have all published a book, and I think, you guys have all been entrepreneurs, running your own businesses or been executives at other businesses for some time. I'm actually curious, and it's for some of you, it's been several years. For some of you, it's been just a little bit more recent, but just out of curiosity, how has the book been able to impact, or even just sharing your story, how has it been able to impact your career, and to what degree? I'm actually just curious, just because, you guys have all published a book. For many of you, it was the first one. And I think everyone here, I think this might be the first one for most of you. So I'm actually curious, what has it been able to create, if any? I would love to have you guys kind of chime in on that one.
Well, it certainly took something off my bucket list. I'd always wanted to write a book. It wasn't necessarily about real estate, but I had all these book ideas. And when Chirag and Adam came to me and they said, hey, contribute to this thing, I thought, okay, well, this is a good excuse now to do it because it's the subject matter that I'm interested in and people that I was fond of anyway. And then the fact that our book went #1 on Amazon was just icing on the cake for me. So, hopefully I'm motivated to write other books too, but that certainly gave me a desire to do more. So I'm just grateful and I'm happy that I was able to participate in that project.
Chirag, one of the things I wanted to say is I think doing the project and collaborating with others has been an incredibly enriching experience because you get to connect with other entrepreneurs. The other thing that has been really incredible is, I never really right? But then writing about it forces me to be organized and very cogent, and that's been incredibly helpful. So I look forward to working with all of you.
Amazing. I think you brought up a good point about collaboration, and I think some of you have been able to collaborate in different ways. I'm actually curious, have you guys been able to connect with your fellow co-authors or really take anything away from this? In some of the books, post books, whether it's events or any other opportunities that you guys have been able to create or generate from this or not?
Well, I can say I want to connect with Giovanni because, my day job, I told you all I was a certified financial planner, but as a volunteer, I coach women to run, and many of them are running their first 5K, and so we branch out and do other type of conditioning activities. So just today, I'm making new connections, and as well as Michelle, knowing what she does. So just today, I feel like I made 2 new friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just reach out if you need some product. I can help you. I'll give you guys some product that you can give to your girlfriends. To help them with their doing a 10K or 5K.
Okay, but some of them are actually trained to run their first marathon. So,
wow.
How do I find Michelle and how do I find Giovanni?
Mekky Sports, M as in Mary, AJISPORTS.com. Mekky Sports.
Yep, and I'm MekkyMedia.com. MEKKY media.com. My company's called Mekky Media, but I also want to run a 5K. So please reach out to me.
Oh, absolutely. And you're in Chicago. Perfect. Yeah.
I run 30 miles a week. That's my...
I ran 3 marathons in 3 weeks. I don't know that I'm fast, but I did it as a charity runner. So there you go. I made 2 new friends.
I love that. Oh, so I'm actually curious because I think I've had this conversation with I don't know if it was with any of you directly, but I think imposter syndrome has come up quite a bit in conversation where, a lot of folks felt like their story just didn't resonate or just wasn't important. I'm actually curious, what was that process like for each of you? Or did you experience any of that at all as you were writing your content?
I'll just jump in really quick with that one and say, I think in the process, I was thinking, am I really writing a book? Even though it's a chapter, I'm like, is this really going to be published? I still felt like it wasn't really real because, it's definitely a bucket list item of mine too. And I think as I was writing it, it was kind of surreal. And then once it actually came out, it's not like I told a ton of people about it in advance. So then when it came out and we started promoting it and posting, and, a lot of people who know me in my network, like, were asking me, Michelle, you wrote a book, like, you're an author now, like, what else can you do, And I think it just really bolstered my, my ability to market myself even more, even though when people would say author or in social media posts, suddenly co-author or author gets added, I still feel like it's not real, It's just one of those things that I think sometimes you don't feel like you actually did it.
I'll jump in, Chirag, as well on this one, because my chapter was on value-based care within oncology. And I did, as I started writing, not knowing what the other authors in the book were going to be writing about. And it literally was not what I set out to write. I was actually thinking I write something on, mentorship or the importance of networking and, that sort of thing. But as I was talking to Jessica about this, it was interesting because it took this turn of it's really important to get this information out as a patient, because it does affect how you are given care when you're a cancer patient, what's happening in the other side of things that patients wouldn't necessarily know about that's affecting decisions. So it turned into, let's use this chapter to educate anybody that has a vested interest in, whether it's a patient or a caregiver or a family member or a friend who has a vested interest in learning about how cancer care is evolving and changing, and giving folks, an insight into that. And so as far as I know, there has not been any other published work on value-based care within oncology and writing it so a patient can understand what's happening. So interestingly enough, when it was actually launched and then shared on social media, I got quite a few of my friends and colleagues that actually reached out and said, thank you for writing the chapter, because it really provided an insight into the journey that I'm going through or that my family members going through. And it allowed me to ask some questions that I wouldn't have known to ask. And so just that was very, more than anything else, that sort of warmed my heart, and that was really the intent, I think, that I had set out to do. And so I was just pleased with that. But as I remember thinking, and I think I reached out to you too, saying, I don't think my chapter fit. At the end of the day, it all worked out. And so very pleased with the results and the outcome of the chapter. So that's kind of my story there.
I appreciate you sharing that. I actually thought it would be helpful to bring our audience up to speak and ask any questions, Jasmine, Dway, or even Rock. If you have any questions just for our authors here, I figured, want to make this a little bit more interactive. They've all published a piece of content. I think, Jasmine, you just joined recently. But essentially, each author here wrote a chapter and contributed to a collective book. Many of the authors here were part of different series. And so some of them published the book, I think like a couple years ago. Rani, Marguerita, and Michelle more recently just published the book. So it just came out more recently. But, curious, because each of the authors have had their own experiences in regards to what they've been able to formulate and the opportunities that they've been able to generate. For many people here, it's a check off the bucket list, and it is a huge accomplishment. Each of the books did take us quite a bit of time to pull together, and some amazing resources. So, I'm actually even curious, like, what was the experience like going through this? Going through that journey, whether even if it was just writing one chapter, or even getting you jump started to maybe even writing a full-blown book. What was that whole experience like going through that process for each of you?
I can say something on that, Chirag. For lawyers, it's very interesting. We can write books pretty easily. I'm sure John could chime in on this too, but lawyers can write really long. But I think there's that quote from Pascal that says something like, I only have made this letter longer because I have not had the time to make it short. And what makes it difficult to write a chapter in your book is the brevity that you have to use to explain difficult issues. And for me, I have to articulate construction law, and construction law is a very specialized subset of law that even lawyers don't understand. So for me, it was a huge challenge to make that relatable to someone in 2,000 words.
Well, I certainly had it easier than Billy, because what I do isn't so specialized. It's just litigation. So I agree with Billy that lawyers certainly can write more than is required. But I honestly didn't have such a hard time, simply because, everyone sort of understands litigation. It's not like construction law where there's all these nuances that the average person doesn't get involved in. But yeah.
Cool. And in regards to the content, I actually do want each of you to dive a little bit deeper in regards to the content that you wrote about. Garrett and John, I think you guys just kind of gave a little bit more insight in your chapters. But, Michelle, Billy, Rita, Brian, if you're there, or even Rani, I guess if you could dive a little deeper in regards to the content that you wanted to focus on, because there's just so many different topics, right, that you could talk about, especially when it comes to leadership or when it comes to, just so many different things, right? And you guys all have unique stories. I've had the opportunity to hear, I think, all of your stories. So I have a pretty good idea, but yeah, I guess how were you really able to filter down and focus on one specific thing, right? Because it's only one chapter and there's so many different things that you guys could have talked about, just given your experiences.
So I guess I can talk a little bit about confidence. So, I am very much in a male-dominated field. Women only represent 23% of the CFP, Certified Financial Planner population, and I am multiracial, multicultural. So I have been the only one in the room, and that's okay. It's just, I think what was very helpful about writing about confidence is I didn't necessarily appear to be confidence as though the industry defined it. Are you loud? Are you aggressive? Are you good at handling objections? I'm a little bit more introspective. I'm actually an introvert, and I don't suffer from analysis paralysis, but I'm not going to speak up until I'm sure that especially when you're dealing with people's money, I really want to give them the benefit of doubt. So writing about confidence as it pertains to what I'm doing every day was really helpful, because it was helpful for me. And then I've also had somebody say to me, I didn't think that you could be kind and empathetic and be successful in finance. And that was it warmed my heart when a young woman said that to me. She said, I was going to leave business school because I didn't think that you could actually care about people and be successful in finance. So writing about confidence was important for me personally, but I'm thinking that there's also someone that can connect with that story.
For me, I tried to write based on, I guess it's better to start with, I became a lawyer because I got sued so much when I was just only an entrepreneur. And so I tried to write my chapter from that perspective. If you're a real estate entrepreneur, what to look out for, because these are all things that I had been sued for. And I just try to write it from what I thought would be most helpful, because, lawsuits, number one, isn't really that interesting. And then number two, unless you've been in a lawsuit, it's just really hard to fathom what it's like. And it's also very difficult to stay away from lawsuits once you start making money. So it was just, I wrote it from the perspective of how can I show somebody how to avoid mistakes that I made that got me into lawsuits.
Oh, got it. Billy, I'm actually curious, because with a lot of the different things that you did more specifically, right, in launching USA City Games and then even your production background, I'd actually love for you to kind of share a little bit more about what you're up to at USA City Games. And just because even your book in particular, we coordinated that one event with AC Green, the former LA Laker. And we got some really great content out of that. But I'm actually curious, a little bit more about your inspiration and a little bit more about your story, right? And what you're currently up to with USA City Games and how things are transforming with you.
Yeah, thanks. I have a similar thing that prompted me to want to write and to write, which to John, and that is where I come from. Even though I mentioned in my introduction that I have a similarity to some inner city and urban, less fortunate kids, I had a similar situation, and I needed to try to compare that and try to write about that, even though I didn't look exactly like them. And I thought that was a really challenging way to write this chapter, and it really was challenging, because I do come from that, and I do feel bad about not having the opportunity as a young kid to be looked at by athletic directors and or high schools and colleges. And I really yearned to be a pro ball player, but I never got the opportunity. I thought later on, by writing about that, doing this, being a part of it, taking it over as a TV executive, like you mentioned, but I'll get into that a little bit. But more importantly, by having this opportunity and this platform, that's what I was most challenged by writing this chapter, because I did get pushed back. I got a lot of pushback by the Watts community because I didn't look like them, and quite honestly, I felt like them, and I come from a very similar path, even though some didn't want to believe that. So that's been a challenge of mine ever since I took these games over as a TV executive that looked like a white male in his 50s who looked like he was trying to get something from corporate America opposed to what I really am about. That's been a challenge. That's been a challenge the whole entire time. Literally, if I've been in rooms, if they had eggs and pies, they'd throw them at me. And it's been really strange and really challenging. So that event, to segue to that event that we did, and which we did, just for the folks who don't know, we did a combination launch. We launched this book, the one that I was in, along with Adam and Chirag and my business partner, AC Green. We had a very successful evening. And I did get people to cross over from that. And that did get me to feel more confident with what I did and how I got there. And since then, that has helped me and catapulted me to another place. I have confidence to begin with, and I got into it because I believe. But at the same time, we all, I'm sure I'm singing to the choir, we all need that push once in a while, no matter how many companies we own or what we've done or what we do. Everybody's human. We all put our pants on the same way. And that's how I always look at life. Since then, one of my goals was to have a health and wellness component to this event, to this program. We just partnered. This is the first time I'm ever announcing partnership with Herbalife Nutrition, and they'll now be a partner in 2021. And we'll look at what 22 and 23 looks like. They have a first right of refusal, and it's pretty exciting news, because I want my athletes to not only understand sports and team participation, but I also want them to be involved with health and wellness, which is something I paid attention to all of my adult baseball life. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do a panel in the next 4 weeks. We're going to do our first event in a year because of the pandemic. We'll be doing that in mid-July based on the CDC recommendations and approval, as sports has been announced that it's coming back. So every day I watch that. We are going to probably come back with 4 or 5 sports in July, along with a stellar panel. So that's what we're doing, Chirag.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing the update. In regards to, this open forum, I guess, does anyone in our audience, or even authors, if you guys have questions for one another, I guess just kind of want to open it up, see if you guys have any inquiries or want to learn more about, your fellow co-authors. Would love for you guys to chime in and see if there's anything that you guys want to learn or know about on your guys' side.
Yeah, hi guys, this is Jasmine. I wanted to chime in for a second. As Chirag mentioned, I joined a little late, so I think I just wanted to get to know the authors a little bit more. And first, Marguerita, thank you for commenting on this question of this definition of confidence. I feel like that's something that I've really been thinking about a lot. I think especially in a similar space where many of the spaces that I'm in are male dominated as well. So mostly wanted to note that I appreciated that part of the conversation. But for all of the authors, I wanted to know a little bit more about your personal leadership statements and how did you come to those, and how did that kind of, I don't want to say define, but rather really put together each of the chapters that each of you wrote.
You guys want to go one by one? Yeah. Why don't we just go through it? Oh, hey, Brian, you're here. Why don't we start off with you, because you haven't had a chance to speak yet. But I guess if each of the authors, you guys just want to do a reintroduction, maybe just spend like 30 seconds just reintroducing yourself for Jasmine and to the rest of our group here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, and I'll be brief. But so Jasmine, thank you for answering the question. So I'm obviously one of the authors. Honestly, I don't think I'm anywhere near as good as everybody else, but somehow they let me in here. So be it. I kind of basically your question, again, I started a company for startups, and the idea came from, the idea that I was walking through offices, and I think I mentioned this in my chapter, breaking through the glass door. You heard of the glass ceiling. My chapter is about breaking out of a company, but realizing that there are transparent barriers to break into startups, to break into your own business, because venture capital and angel investors will look at someone like myself, will look at someone Black and brown, as well as women entrepreneurs, and there's factual evidence to show that typically you are not taken as seriously. You have a lower probability of getting initial funding. If you do get funding, typically investors take a higher level of equity and they treat you with a high level of risk. And the only thing that really I can come up with based on research that makes, like I said, a Black or brown or female entrepreneur any different would be the race, ethnicity, or gender aspect. So that being the case, that's something I think most people in the industry understand, that they're trying to address it with things like impact investing. So I mentioned that in the chapter, how we have to go there. But kind of the thing that the push that made me do it is that I want to be able to manage as much as we talk about leadership. I think each one of us talk about leadership in some way. What I wanted to convey in my chapter, my story was, hey, I've always felt like I kind of was a little bit behind the 8 ball. I've always felt like I didn't have enough people who represented my community to follow. So sometimes I was following, quite frankly, the wrong people. One person I can think of offhand, we're not going to mention his name, but back in the day, yes, I did buy his books badly. We're not going to talk about that, but I think we all kind of fall into that trap where if all you see is someone of a certain homogenous type, that may be the person or the model that you follow. The leadership style of Greenlight Startup Inc. is not that. It's that sometimes the standard out there is not the right standard, and that especially as a startup, as an entrepreneur, and I hope everybody agrees, although the authors agree, and Shigar as well, and Adam, I hope that we can understand that sometimes the standard is so weak or non-existent that we each have to become our own standard, and that other people should be trying to follow us and not the other way around. And that I'll kind of leave it there, but that was kind of what kind of inspired me to write the chapter in the first place.
No, I love that. Thanks so much for sharing, Brian.
Awesome. Cool. I guess, do you guys just want to do a quick little reintro? Billy, Michelle, Rita, Rani, Garrett, John. You guys just want to maybe share a little bit? Yep.
Real quick. Jasmine, Los Angeles-based television executive with a major entrepreneurial spirit. I've been involved with a magnitude of businesses. One was the Watts Summer Games that I took over in 2016 from the Junior Chamber of Commerce from Los Angeles, and I mounted the games in 2017. And that's one of my day-to-days today for inner city underserved youth. That's my quick bit.
Jasmine, hi. I know you know me well. Great to see you in my room, Jasmine. Thanks for joining. Jasmine and I actually know each other, everybody, so I think she knows who I am. And we both have met. How did we meet, Jasmine?
That's a good question.
Mutual friends.
Yeah, we met through mutual friends, and then obviously being in my space, the marketing world overlapping.
That's right.
Your work. Yeah, so
that's
glad.
Right. I'll just jump in real quick on the confidence topic, though, because that resonates very much with me. And that's part of what I wrote about as well, just how I struggled with confidence my whole life. And, I think that's a big part of the reason why I didn't start my business till late in life, other than how the road that I went on was difficult and the things that happened. But I spent most of my career working for other people, right? But when I was younger, I definitely, and first starting out, I had a dream to be in front of the camera, and that's really what I studied, but I lost my confidence. And so now looking back, I teach and I mentor and I talk a lot to young women about, really never giving up their dream, and women or men, really anyone, just to go for it, right? And it was only when I had a mentor who really looked at me and said she would give me money as a loan to start my company. And as soon as she wrote that check, that's what really pushed me over the edge to finally do it. But having experienced, great success over the last 5 years, I feel like I waited way too long to start this. In many ways, you have to do the things that happen in life happen for a reason, but just the confidence issue is very big for me too. And so that's part of what I wrote about, and how to not let that stop you achieve anything you want in your life.
Awesome. Thank you. Rita, do you want to just maybe give Jasmine just like your quick 30 seconds?
So what we do, or the chapter in the book? Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for what you said earlier about confidence. I'm based in, as we call DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, not so far from our nation's capital. And I am here to change the face of wealth and the conversation about it's a pleasure to connect. Is that what you wanted, Chirag?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Ronnie, John, do you guys just want to give a quick overview as well?
Sure, happy to. Hi, Jasmine. I'm Garrett Mott. I'm a shareholder with Hennig Law Corporation. We are construction lawyers. It's our only specialty. We don't do anything else. We represent some of the nation's largest developers, contractors, subcontractors, material suppliers, and engineers. I've built everything from nuclear power plants to the 91 freeway that you drive on in Orange County to the Green Line and the Purple Line extension. So I've been involved in a lot of projects over there. Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for sharing, Garrett. I appreciate it.
Hi, Jasmine. My name is Rani Khaterpal. I am a healthcare executive. I work specifically in the world of oncology and cardiology as it stands now, but that is an evolving area for me. So I kind of hit all different therapeutic areas, but my passion lies in cancer care. I work on the business side of cancer care and healthcare. So this term called value-based care is kind of my world. And so that basically translates to a different kind of care delivery model and a different kind of reimbursement based on quality of care, not just cost of care for providers as well as insurance companies and so forth. So my chapter in my book was a little bit different than your typical chapter, but it sought to educate patients on how cancer care is changing and some of the things that they need to be aware of in terms of how decisions are made, from the top down. So that's a little bit about me. It's great to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone introducing themselves. I think I should have prefaced as well. I actually purchased the book last week, and so have started the very early pages. So I'm really looking forward to getting through everyone's chapter and learning more about each of your leadership and entrepreneurial experiences as a fairly new entrepreneur myself.
Amazing. I was also going to suggest, everyone should be following each other here. So even if you have any questions, post the Clubhouse room here, you guys can all stay connected. I think right now Clubhouse doesn't have there's no direct chat feature here, but you could actually add your Twitter or your Instagram profiles. So it is a great way to stay connected. Of course, you guys can just follow each other. And I think everyone here is on LinkedIn too. So it's a great way to stay connected. So, if you guys have questions for one another, definitely stay engaged and stay in touch. I know everyone here is really helpful. I know Jason just joined us just more recently, but in short, we have a lot of authors here. We've coordinated and created a collaborative book where a lot of the authors have written a chapter about their respective backgrounds. We have a few attorneys here. We have a wealth manager here, a PR expert, some folks in the production industry, some folks who are involved in the startup industry with Brian. So we got a pretty diverse group here, and everyone's kind of talked about their own leadership experiences and what their experience has been like, authoring a book. We usually host these platforms once a week, so there's always a new topic of discussion that we bring about.
Well, for those of you that don't know Dwayne, he's running for mayor of Las Vegas, so maybe he needs help with that.
Congrats, that's awesome. Yeah, look, you got to now give us your pitch, right? Because you got to tell us a little bit about what you're working on. Definitely, I'm curious. Possible. Well, I guess if you end up chiming in, feel free to do so. Anyone have any other questions for each other? Cool. Well, with that, I guess that'll conclude our.
My mic was messed up, guys. That's why.
Oh, there we go. Dwayne, you got to share it. Dwayne, please share.
So I'm actually running for city council, not mayor. So the campaigns is going on for two months now. We've raised around 2,000 so far. It's been growing pretty quickly, so it's very exciting.
Congrats, Dwayne.
Oh, appreciate it. So the main focus of my campaign is to disengage our city council from the 1033 and 1122 program, which is costing the city around $655 million every year.
What are those two things?
So the 1033 and 1122 program was started back in the 90s under the Bill Clinton administration. It was a way to try to deal with what happened during the Reagan administration, where they militarized all 50 states police departments. So essentially, what it did, it created a database where police stations can actually log in and purchase militarized equipment at a discounted rates, but it's been costing the nation around $20 billion annually, and it's creating a lot of issues more than solving. So what I'm going to do is create this program called Budget Your Values. So essentially what I'm going to do is we're going to target areas of the city that are not getting help and redistribute monies that's not being used properly towards these programs to lower the stress on the cops and start to bridge a lot of the gaps that we currently have in our city.
Appreciate it, Dwayne. Well, best of luck, and got some folks out there, so definitely stay in touch. And if you can, feel free to shoot me a message on or Twitter or Instagram, or just follow me here, and I can connect you to a couple of folks out there. So,
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a buddy of mine that lives in Vegas, who's very well connected as well. Shoot me a message. His name is AJ Ali, and he's also a published author, and he knows everybody and their mom.
Perfect. So I will shoot you both my platforms so you guys can look through it.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
One thing, if I could, I cannot guarantee this, but my wife and I did meet Cory Booker when he ran for mayor in 2006, but he ran successfully, and he does follow me on Twitter. I don't want to get your hopes up, but he's really big into community policing. If you have anything in your platform, my Twitter's there. Send me anything that you want. I will retweet it to him directly. I'm actually hosting a town hall on the 2nd of March here on Clubhouse. So if you guys follow me, you guys can see when it's available. I'm going to talk more about the platform in detail.
Yep. Best of luck. Awesome. With that, any other?
Thank you, John, for the shout out.
Way to go, John.
I've known him for practically almost 10 years now.
Yeah, maybe you want to make him the campaign.
No, he's too busy.
Cool. With that, any other final things before we wrap up here? Okay. I guess with that, let's stay connected. Definitely keep in touch. And we're going to be hosting our next one Thursday next week at 6 p.m. PST at our normal time. And one last thing, by the way, is I've had a few of our authors or a few other folks reach out to us, and they wanted to collaborate and host a specific type of a Clubhouse room. We're actually just going to start opening that up, and we're going to, instead of just doing our normal Thursday 6 p.m. conversations, we want to be hosting more. So if you guys have any ideas, feel free to reach out directly. So just wanted to keep that open and out there. All right.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right. With that, thanks everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.